Hello and welcome to today's live stream. Today is all about solving technical issues and helping you guys to understand how to fault find and it can save you time and money. So there's some really key, easy, simple fixes and little tips and tricks that I'm going to give you today that should really help you. The first one that we're going to do is we're going to talk about a steam arm. So we're going to talk about how to unblock a steam arm. We're also, sorry, just drop that. We're also going to go through a few other things, like we're going to talk about group heads, waste pipes, and also we're going to touch on one really common thing that we occasionally get with the grinder as well. So we'll finish on that. So to start with, we're going to look into the steam arm. So let's say you come in one morning and you notice that you've got no steam out of the steam arm. So you turn the steam arm on and there's literally nothing coming out of there at all. First thing to check before you phone us up and say, help, I've got no steam, is obviously check the other side. So turn the other side on, make sure you've got steam on that side. If you have got steam on the other side, then chances are this nozzle is likely to be blocked. So first thing to do is just quite simply unscrew it like so. Okay, and then turn the steam arm on and make sure that you've got steam out of the steam arm. This is for demonstration purposes, so this coffee machine is turned off so I can touch and hold the steam arm. But obviously you want to be turning that on and be getting lots of lovely steam out of the machine. Okay, so if you've got steam out of there, you know that this is the culprit. So on the end of a steam arm nozzle, you usually have 3 or 4 holes, which you can see there. And the best thing to unblock these holes is a paper clip. So all I've done is got a paper clip and I've just bent that bit round so that it's nice and straight. And then you can then just push it into the holes, making sure they're nice and unblocked. Right, so nice and clear. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I've just got some boiling water here and I'm just going to drop that into the boiling water just to loosen it up. You can buy a Pooley milk solution that you can use that, but some boiling water does just fine. So you want to give that a little bit of a soak, about 15 minutes, just to loosen everything up. And then take it out, give it a wash through, and then you'll be good to go back on the steam arm. So we're going to screw that back in. Okay. And then obviously give it a blast and check that you've unblocked it. Another thing as well with steam arms is obviously we all do this, or you should be doing it anyway. So every time you finished your coffee, you then want to wipe your steam arm thoroughly and purge. So blast out any milk that's left in that steam arm. But what we do is we often do this and we forget about the little bit on the end. So always make sure that that's nice and clean as well. And always make sure that you've got steam coming out of all those holes, because if just one of them is blocked, you're not going to be getting a lovely texture to your milk. And it's also going to take a lot longer to heat it up. So really important to look after your steam arms. Another really big mistake that I see up and down the country everywhere all the time, and I'm sure loads of you would have seen this being done, is soaking the steam arms. So you'll walk past a cafe late at night and it'll all be shut up, and you'll see that they'll do this and they'll leave a jug of milk solution or water on the steam arm like so and leave it soaking overnight. Now that's a big no-no. And the reason being is what can happen is it can create a vacuum and suck the water cleaning solution, and then obviously all the old milk that's collected in the steam arm and in the nozzle, and it can draw it up back into the boiler, and it can actually contaminate your boiler. And some machines have actually had to be condemned in the past because of people doing that. So make sure that you're always just wiping the steam arm every time you make a coffee, and then clean the nozzles, but don't soak the steam arm. Okay. Perfect. Hope that solves that one for you. Okay, so we're going to move on to talk about group heads. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, this is a group head and this is a group handle. Okay, this is a cleaning blank or cleaning disc, and what we're going to do is use that to prise out the basket. Okay. So when we normally clean our machine, we put that into there with half a teaspoon of powder. So this is the detanning powder that we use. It's a really great product, and what we do is we put it into the machine. We go through a cleaning cycle, but once we've done that, it's then really important to wash all of that chemical out of the machine. So we don't want any chemical remaining inside the machine. Now, not only do we want to do that because you don't want to be poisoning your customers and feeding them a horrible coffee that tastes like chemicals, but also you can come in the next morning and actually your machine won't work at all. And the reason being is that you have two group solenoid valves at the back of here. You can't see them. And every time when you clean your machine, you want to make sure that you flush all of that powder out of those valves. And if you don't do it properly, what can happen? It can go a bit like chewing gum and it can stick the valve so that when you come in the morning, that it just won't work. So you go to press your button, no water would come out of that head, or it might just dribble out. And that's because that valve is stuck at the back. So it needs freeing up. So before you phone us up, this is a real good tip to give it a go. I haven't got a boiler in here, so I've got my boiling water here just to demonstrate. So what I like to do is just fill the dish up. So I've got the cleaning blank in here. I've filled it up with boiling hot water, and we're just going to very carefully put it up into the group head like so. And we're going to try and push the continuous button on for 10 seconds and then off for 10 seconds, on for 10 seconds and then off, and then leave it for about half an hour just to soak. So we're leaving that disc up in there, and if you're lucky, what will happen is that water will back up and go into that valve, and it will just slowly start to free it up. And then you come back to the machine half an hour later, again, do the same again, flush it on, flush it off, and take this out. And if you're lucky, that would have been enough to actually free that valve up, and your group head will start working again. If not, don't panic, just phone us and we'll call an engineer to come out. But this, again, can save you a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of hassle. So it's just a top tip that we really wanted to share with you guys. Okay, so I'm then going to put that back in there. And then that all goes back in. Okay, so moving on to, definitely it's got to be the most common issue that we have. So I'm going to move the drip tray out of the way so I can show you. Now this machine is a real good example actually of what it looks like if your waste has been backing up. So it'll look like this. You'll have lots of ground coffee and dirty water residue around here, because what's been happening is this will be filling up with water and then spilling over. So how we get to this point is basically imagine you're working, and it always happens when you're really busy in the middle of the day, middle of service, and you notice a load of water appearing under your machine. It's usually dirty water, so like coffee grounds and water. And what's happening is that water from a waste pipe is backing up. So it's either that the waste pipe's blocked, and that's what's causing it to come over, or it's that the pipe's down into your waste container too much, so it's backing up. So what I'm going to do to show you today is a couple of ways to try and get around it, to try and solve that issue as quickly as possible. So take the drip tray out. First thing is to look to see where the water's coming from. So if this waste cone is full to the brim, then obviously you know that that's the problem. So that's overflowing, and that's where our water's coming from. So what we want to do is try and shift that. Okay, so we're going to get a jug of boiling water, and we're going to put about 2 teaspoons of our detanning powder in there. So put that in there, And then what we're going to do is obviously making sure that our waste pipe's in the waste container. We're going to slowly pour that water down, making sure that we're getting a good flow. If that doesn't work and it's still flowing over and making a horrible mess, then what we want to do is find out where the blockage is. So try wiggling your pipe. So you want to locate this grey flexi waste hose, which is underneath the machine. And you want something ideally, or a friend, to try and help you to lift the front of the machine up. And then you can then locate where the hose connects onto the machine. Now these just push on and off, so you can pull this off like so. And then we can pull that out. And then you can look underneath the machine as well to see if your waste hose goes into a bucket like this, or if it goes down into a upstand into your drain. So in this instance, it's going into this waste container. So we're going to pull it all the way out. Now we're going to feel how heavy it is. Now, if it's really heavy, and then it's likely to be really blocked up. So what you can do is put one end of this onto a tap and the other end into a mop bucket, or you can simply just keep pouring boiling water down there with some de-tanning powder and have the other end going into your mop bucket. So obviously try not to put it straight down your sink into the drain, because obviously it can then block your drains up. But we just want to get those coffee grounds. There's likely to be coffee grounds blocked in there. Sometimes, I mean, you might get some people that have put tea leaves or something down there, which isn't a good idea. So that's what could be causing the problem. So we want to make sure that that's all nicely unblocked. I mean, if you get to this stage and you're like, this is just too much, then again, don't panic. Put it back to how it was and give us a call and we'll get an engineer out to you. But this is just something that a lot of you would be able to do, and it could save you a lot of time. So it's definitely worth checking. So once that's clear, you can then put it back. So we're going to put that back into the waste container, obviously making sure that it's only just into the top of the container, that it's not down in the water. And then we can push that back on there. And then that is that, nice and straightforward. And then we'll just lift that off of there again. And then all that's left to do is just pour some more water down, making sure that we've got a nice flow that's all running down there nicely. And that is how you unblock a waste pipe. Okay, so I'm just going to bring this grinder over, then we can talk to you a little bit about unblocking grinders. So obviously with coffee being a natural product, we do occasionally get like little bits of wood or little foreign objects. I mean, it's very unlikely nowadays because our roasting process has got so good that we put all of our coffee through like a very extensive process where it goes through like metal detectors, and we get rid of all the rocks and all of the bits of wood and all sorts. But very occasionally you can get something. It's more common to get just a hard bean, so a bean that that could potentially jam the grinder. So if you do ever come into this problem, this is what you need to do. So the first thing to do is to make sure that you can take this hopper off. Okay, now obviously if it's full of beans, make sure that this is pushed in. So make sure that this is shut off before you lift the hopper off, and make sure it's unlocked. So on this grinder, for instance, it's got a lock here. So we loosen that off before we can it then allows us to lift the hopper off. Okay, so that's the first bit. The next bit is obviously make sure that your grinder's unplugged. So safety first, make sure that it's nice and safe. Okay, take a picture on your phone of where the grind setting is set on. So on this grinder, we're set on number 5. And then again, I can't stress enough, if you're feeling like this is too in depth for you and you don't feel comfortable doing it, don't do it. Just call an engineer. But this whole video and live stream is for those of you that are a little bit more confident, and even you might have get a few bits from this that you'd be able to pick up, whereas other things you might not be confident about. So anyway, going back into it. So take a picture of where the grind setting is at the moment. So it's on number 5. So take a picture of that on our phone. And then we want to loosen off the locking collar to allow us to adjust the grind. Now you can see coarse here one way, fine the other. Now what we want to do is go coarse. So what that will do is move those blades further apart, so it then frees up that bean that's jammed in there, okay? So we want to move it about a quarter of a turn, so round quite a long way, okay? And then we're going to screw that back in. And then what we're going to do is plug our grinder back in, pop the hopper back on, but just don't pull this out, okay? So still leave that in. Don't let the weight of all those other beans drop down. And then we're just going to turn our grinder on just to grind out, or see if we've undone the jam, okay? Which in this case we have, like the blades are now moving, which is great. So we know that we've freed that jam up. If it's still not quite there, then just try loosening that off again, moving it a little bit coarser again. Try it again. And chances are you've done it, you've freed it. If you haven't done it, unplug your grinder, then get a hoover and put a hoover in here and give it a good old suck and see if that does the job, and try that. And then by this point you should have solved it 9 times out of 10. So then what you want to do is move it back to where we were. So we're going to plug our grinder back in, then going to turn the grinder on, and then move it back to 5, back to where we were. Turn it off, and then we can then drop that beans back down onto the blades, and then turn our grinder on properly, and then you're all set, ready to roll. Okay, but say if at any point of this, you get to that stage where you've given it a go and you're unsure, give us a call, because we might be able to still talk you through or give you a little bit more assistance, and then you might then be able to sort it. So it might be that you've just nearly got it sorted, we just need that little bit more advice, or we can then obviously book to get an engineer out. So I hope this was helpful. Please let us know if you found this helpful, and we're going to continue doing these videos, and there'll be more coming that will be on loads of different topics. We're trying not to bombard you with loads of information, but hopefully that was helpful. But are there any of you watching now that have any questions or any comments? If you let Matt's behind the camera, if you let Matt know, and then Matt will read out any of your comments or questions. See if we've got anyone that's got any questions. No. Nope. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I hope that helped, and I'll see you on the next one.